The weather for today, it's going to be a great day, 78 degrees and partly cloudy. It's Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. So earlier in the broadcast, and I want to make sure that I play this twice, Rachel Marin's mother, Patty. Now, you know Rachel Marin, she was murdered by an MS-13 illegal alien gangbanger, whatever it was, in Maryland. And so Patty Marin attended the White House press briefing yesterday, and she had some questions and some comments regarding Senator Chris Van Hollen, her senator, there in the state of Maryland.
And to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledge my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this.
I mean, listen, it was such a powerful statement that she made, and it was like 8 minutes, and she just stood up there and she talked, and she went through agonizing detail on what happened to Rachel Marin, her daughter. And it was so agonizing that I can't play in Morning Drive with kids in the car the detail that she went into. But I think that her questions and what she has to say to this senator are valid. I mean, you got the Democrats that are wanting to be in solidarity with the family of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
These are the kind of criminals President Trump wants to remove from our country. These are the kind of criminals that we need to remove from our country. We are American citizens. Why should we allow people like this, violent criminals that have no conscience at all, to murder our mothers, our sisters, our daughters? I don't understand why there's even any kind of problem with this. And it's not that it's political, like the left or the right, although I understand different parties have used it in the past. But we have to look at it as we are American citizens. We need to protect our families, our borders, our children.
I mean, the words of Patty Marin, Rachel Marin's mother, they're just so striking and so telling. And Senator Bill Hagerty is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Senator, I don't know if you saw the testimony, if you will, of the mother of Rachel Marin, Patty Marin, but I think really what she brought was a punctuation as to how the Democrats are clearly on the wrong side in this debate over Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Dan, I did see it. It's heartbreaking, and I think your description is actually a brilliant one. The Democrats are so far off base in terms of their ability to connect with the American public. It's just shocking to me that they are moving in the direction that they are, arguing over process issues and trying to defend democracy, quote in quotes, because some procedural error that some lawyer found that might be used to bring this criminal back to the United States hasn't been followed. It's just shocking to me, and they look, again, as you said, just completely out of touch. I love the exclamation point because they are far distant from where the heart of the American public is. Her testimony, as you called it, was heartbreaking yesterday.
Senator, you are traveling all across Middle Tennessee this week, and I'm curious. The mainstream media, CNN, and some of these other places, they're trying to make it seem like Republicans and conservatives are abandoning Donald Trump in the midst of this tariff fight, mainly with China. What are you sensing as you drive around the volunteer state?
Well, I've been talking with employers, people that import from China, and I'm probably taking a call an hour from someone who's being impacted by the tariffs or the potential for tariffs. And what I try to remind everybody that I speak with is that we're in the early phases of a negotiation. Those countries that figured that out were in Washington last week, ready to negotiate. Japan, where I served as U.S. ambassador under the first Trump administration, first in line. Prime Minister Ishiba talked with President Trump the first thing Monday morning of last week. South Korea, Vietnam, the Europeans are even coming to the table. So what President Trump has done is basically brought everybody to the table to fix trade imbalances that have been off for a long time, Dan. And I think you and I have talked about this before. There are historic reasons for these trade imbalances. It goes back to World War II, when the United States put in place very favorable terms of trade for countries like, countries in Europe, countries like Japan, whose economies had been devastated. We did that because we wanted them to rebuild their economies, not turn toward communism, and to work with us. That was a laudable goal. But those countries now are fully developed. We should have put a time limitation on them. We should have put some type of GDP per capita limit. We didn't. Now you've got fully developed countries with very imbalanced terms of trade with the United States. Take Europe, for example, in cars. We build a car in America, send it to Europe, a 10% tariff is applied to it. They build a car in Europe, send it to us, they only get a 2.5% tariff. No one would argue that's reciprocal. No one would argue it's fair. Yet those are the terms of trade today. Trump is trying to fix it.
Senator, you have long been sounding the alarm on China. We all know what is going on. To me, it seems like this war right now is mainly focused on China. Everyone else is coming in. All the other countries are coming in to negotiate. So what's your position on the war with China? How do you see this whole thing playing out? Are you worried about the markets, and where do you see this whole thing going?
Well, I think it's very interesting where Xi finds himself. President Xi of China threatened to retaliate if Trump imposed tariffs. Trump did. Trump made it clear that were Xi to retaliate, that he would post additional tariffs on China. Xi retaliated, and Trump did the same thing. In fact, he did it at 12:01 a.m. last Wednesday of last week. What Xi didn't appreciate, because I think Xi was looking at the environment at the time and thinking, well, Vietnam, Cambodia have oppressive tariffs. I've got a lot of company here. What he didn't anticipate was the fact that Trump would drop the tariffs on the other countries in Xi's neighborhood. So now they're all looking at 10% tariffs while Xi is looking at 145%. China has boxed itself in. The companies that are trying to de-risk their supply chains, that's the polite term for moving out of China, those countries can't go fast enough now. And it's not that they're running to the U.S. necessarily, I hope they will, but they're also going to places like Vietnam. And I think it's only accelerated that. Xi has boxed himself in. And I think the only way it gets resolved, Dan, is that Xi and Trump have to meet. I've been with both leaders together. What I saw was a respectful relationship, but that was before COVID hit. Now that we've had a massive breach of trust, I've said this on multiple occasions, that what we need to see now is a leader-to-leader meeting. Xi needs to come clean. If you think about what China has done in the past, they've stolen our intellectual property, they've subsidized their industries, and they have made it next to impossible for a U.S. company to enter their market, and certainly not on the same terms that we allow China to work here in America. So something's got to change. President Trump is going to see that through. There will be disruption, but it can go one of two ways, Dan. The tariffs can stay high and basically, block out China, or China can come to its senses and move toward market terms. We could see a much lower rate, and I think President Trump is ready to deal. I just think the two leaders need to get to the table as soon as possible to make that happen.
Well, Senator, it seems like every week or so we are seeing positive ramifications of those tariffs with companies moving manufacturing back to the United States. Last question. I know that our time is limited. Budget reconciliation. The Senate, you folks in the Senate, you folks only wanted to save about, I think it's $4 billion in your version of the Senate. The House wanted to save $2 trillion. I know it's a very surface conversation that what I just said, but I know there's a lot of moving parts here. But where are we at in the process of budget reconciliation, specifically as it relates to the Trump tax cuts?
Well, the Trump tax cuts will be extended. That's a primary focus of the Senate right now and the House. The numbers, I think, have been basically misunderstood for obvious reasons. The way the Byrd rule, it's called, in the Senate works is if you don't meet or exceed the number of the target that you set for yourself, it blows the whole thing up. So they've set some artificially low numbers just to make certain we don't have any bird rule problems in any given subset. But at the same time, the Senate is looking for at least $2 trillion worth of cuts. So I think the House was looking for 1.5. We're looking for $2 or more trillion dollars. So I think we're going to wind up on the same page pretty quickly. That's why the House voted to move forward on this. Leader Thune spent time with the members of the House explaining to them what we're doing. And I think people are clear now that we're going to make some very significant cuts in this budget. It's not going to be enough to fix it in the first year, but we're going to be moving in the right direction going forward.
I think that's just what I think people just want to see for the first time in what feels like a long time, a significant cut and some significant cuts like a lot of the American people are having to do with their own budgets. And Senator, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us, as always, on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and at Nashville's Morning News. Senator Bill Hagerty. He's on the road in Tennessee talking to constituents. Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Joan.